As Elijah Muhammad attested, the last letter he received from W.D. Farad was from March 1934. It was sent from Mexico. It is unclear whether it was postmarked March 1934 or was received in that month. Looking for a man in Mexico is an almost impossible task. Having a postmark listing the city, state, and zip code in Mexico would enormously facilitate the task of tracking his movements. The content of the letter has not been made publicly available. According to John Muhammad, it contained English lesson C1. Although it is unclear whether he was speaking about the last time he physically saw him or the last time he heard from him, Elijah Muhammad informed some journalists that W.D. Farad disappeared on March 19, 1934, as mysteriously as he had appeared. Was Farad ill? Was his diabetes getting the best of him? Was he on his last leg? Or did he continue to communicate with Elijah Muhammad for years and decades to come? A captivating clue has sparked our curiosity, drawn our interest, and encouraged further investigation. According to a report found in the FBI file on Elijah Muhammad, on March 30th, 1964, Elijah Muhammad was told in Phoenix, Arizona, after he had asked if his professor had answered him from Mexico yet, that an answer had been received, and it should have been transmitted to Chicago by this time. Muhammad was told that a certain censored person was going to translate it. Muhammad stated he was surprised the answer was in Chicago, adding he was anxious to have the reply as soon as possible. Phoenix is also requested to review information available from its sources and attempt to determine the identity of his professor in Mexico. Any pertinent developments should be furnished to the Bureau and Chicago in appropriate communication. In a memorandum dated 4/17/1964, which was sent from the Phoenix office to the director of the FBI, regarding the Airtel dated 4/2/64, the following details were provided. In response to Re-Airtel, the Phoenix division has reviewed information available from sources, but no data was located which would identify his professor in Mexico. Phoenix sources have also been alerted to any plans by Elijah Muhammad to go out of the United States. Any information in this regard, or which might possibly identify his professor in Mexico, will be brought immediately to the attention of the Bureau and the Chicago Division. Elijah Muhammad had one teacher, and one teacher alone, W.D. Farad, who was also known as Professor Ford. While it is possible that the professor in question was merely an educator at a university in Mexico who was assisting him in the purchase of a property in Cuernavaca and helping get him settled in, why did he not just refer to him as the professor? Why refer to him as my professor? And if we were dealing with a teacher, educator, or professor based in Cuernavaca, Mexico, it would have been extremely easy for the FBI to locate him. In fact, they even had Elijah Muhammad's home bugged in Cuernavaca. They were constantly recording him, even when he was discussing how to evade taxes. Why were first or last names never mentioned by Elijah Muhammad? Why was the professor, his professor, untraceable even to the FBI? There is good reason to believe that the individual in question was W.D. Farad himself, who had relocated to Mexico in 1934 and settled in Cuernavaca or its immediate vicinity under a new identity. For researchers who espouse the Mexican hypothesis, many presume that W.D. Farad entered Mexico from the border of California, probably at Tijuana. Speaking of W.D. Farad's last officially known letter, Minister Carlos Mohammed made some important points in 2021. We can see it's written from the southwest part of North America. Well, where is that? Is it Texas? Is it New Mexico? Is it Mexico? Is it just across the border? We don't know. But we do know that the Savior obviously had some relationship and roots and seeds planted in Mexico, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad at a point which is of greater conversation of what guided and led him to move his family there and establish a residence there and establish his divine mission there, which continues to this day. We can honestly say that he had the significance of the Savior traveling to these places. However, the road from Tijuana led nowhere. If W.D. Farad entered Mexico, the most logical entry point would have been at Laredo, Nuevo Laredo in Texas. By 1934, long stretches of the Pan American Highway had just been completed, and Americans were starting to explore Mexico by car. From the time he was in California to the time he was in Michigan, W.D. Farad was fond of driving, as were many Americans, reveling in the freedom that the automobile, gas stations, motels, amenities, and tourist attractions now provided. From Nuevo Laredo in northern Mexico, on the border of the United States, the Pan American Highway runs to the capital, Mexico City. From there, Cuernavaca is merely 30 miles south. 1934, that is basically where the safe, paved, drivable, all-weather highway ended. Beyond that, there were segments that were only good or fair in dry weather, portions that were only passable with difficulty in dry weather, parts that were merely trails, and yet others that remained under construction. For an intrepid adventurer who was among the millions who enjoyed the rise of mass tourism, Cuernavaca, a picturesque town, was the end of the road. This is where W.D. Farad's journey would have ended. This is Dr. John Andrew Morrow's Polymath Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share.